There's a lot at stake when selling your home. In fact, thousands of dollars could be in jeopardy. I'm Dominic Fonte, your local Cutler Realtor. To maximize the profits of the sale of your home, you need an expert who knows what buyers are looking for and able to recognize those features that will command top dollar.
There's a lot at stake when selling a home, so choose the realtor trusted by over 1,700 families. Choose Dominic Fonte. Visit DominicFonte.com. Dominic Fonte. Trusted, respected, recommended.
Live from the WHBC Broadcast Center. Find out more about area businesses, agencies, and events.
It's what's going on right now.
This is Spotlight on Stark County with Pam Cook and Gary Rivers.
Well, welcome to our Monday morning edition of Spotlight on News Talk 1480 WHBC. I'm Gary Rivers sitting in, and Dominic Fonte joins us here in the studio this morning, and we'll be talking with him on, real estate, which is always a very, very big topic. And by the way, you can follow along at home on Facebook Live if you like. If you'd like to see, he's a much better looking guy than me, so if they'd please keep the camera over on Dominic, that'll be just fine here this morning. Good morning, Dom.
Good morning, Gary Rivers. How are you today, sir?
Doing just fine. You come in all happy and smiley. It must be a buyer and seller's market.
It's just a solid time to be considering real estate. And, of course, when I see your face, I always want to smile.
Oh, my. Well, you're, of course, Dominic Fonte and Associates, Cutler Real Estate. Always a pleasure to have you in here because we learn so much.
Well, I enjoy being here, and I hope the listeners, if they have any questions, send an email in. I'll be more than happy to try to answer it live.
Yeah, please do. I think that would be great. I think folks listen to you, and then they end up probably thinking of a lot of questions. And I always say, maybe the best thing is save those questions, but take your phone number down and set an appointment to meet with you. That really is the best thing, isn't it?
It's a non-threatening way to get educated so you're an informed decision maker when the time comes.
Well, and that's the thing. I know it's almost a trite saying that real estate, your home, may be the biggest investment you make in your lifetime, and it often is.
I would agree with that.
And with that, though, boy, so many times when we're young and we're just starting off, we don't even think about the enormity of that and how that has repercussions down the road. So your recommendation is always find somebody like yourself that you can trust and develop a relationship with.
I believe that in today's times with all the technology, it's trying to parse through all the information to make an informed decision. So I think as you go through the process of considering what your options are. It's financial, it's huge, it's also emotional. So I think, the more information you gather and then you process it through the way you think, do a little more processing, and then you make an informed decision. I would highly recommend meeting and talking with someone, your agent or me or whoever, that is experienced, has a track record, and someone that really can navigate you through that process.
Now, here's the thing. I'm going to hold up the cell phone. This is what we all seem to want to buy everything from. We were so excited when we saw Amazon it's eBay. So easy to purchase. Click, one-click selling. But when it comes to real estate, I know they want to have that convenience, and they do with the ability to look at properties. But it's a whole different ballgame to buy or sell your property. You just can't do it with a one-click process.
No, I think today, this is what's interesting about the paradigm shift. So over the last few years, technology's played an important part of this whole process. So I think what a lot of times people will do, they'll Google information, they'll Google addresses, they'll look at the photos, the pictures, and instead of like going through open houses and looking in the newspaper like they used to, they'll go ahead and set up their own searches by themselves or their partners or with their realtors, and they narrow it down online. So they might see maybe one house physically, but maybe 60 online, and they narrow it down to maybe 10, and then that's when they do the drive-by. They GPS it or MapQuest it, and they do the drive-by, and at that point is when they nix it or put it on the list for the actual walkthrough appointment.
Now, is that a good way of doing it, or are they missing out on some properties?
I mean, it has to do with the individual. So if the individual has to physically, go into the house to understand it, then that's the route you go. So I always like when I meet with a customer, thinking of buying or selling, I have to understand. I always say to them, if you had a magic wand, how would you like to have this experience happen for you? Because it's based on what their wishes are. Because again, it's like bringing them, it's like you can bring someone to the ocean with a teacup or a bucket. And I like to prefer to give them the bucket approach so they can leverage all the data and information. So I think, the main thing I believe is that get informed, see what you can see online. If that's the easiest way for you, great. If it isn't, then set that appointment with your agent and go ahead and physically go through a handful so you make that that connection that you're looking for. And again, perception of what you think and the reality of what it really is, sometimes there's a little bit of a learning curve there for that, customer, depending on their personality.
And that's another reason to talk to you. The one thing about what I've known is, like, you've brought literature with you today.
I sure did.
These are some new pieces of literature that you print on an annual or semi-annual basis, right?
That's correct. And I can also make them available to the public. We have 3 actually offerings today. They're free. It's basically things to consider when you want to sell your home.
Yeah.
It's a 30-page colored guide, and it's the fall edition. Also, for one, if you're considering buying, there's a lot of things to consider with interest rates and all the nuances of the process. Also, if you're a millennial, which, believe it or not, 50% of the first-time buyers are millennials, around 34, 35 years old. Really excellent material.
So you have a millennial's guide to buying homes.
I do. I have 3 excellent guides, and if you're ever interested, you can either call me at 330-418-1535 or email me at Dominic@DominicFonte.com. Fonte is Fonte.
Okay, and I think if anyone, and going back to your original statement, if you have a question, certainly feel free to email you right now.
Oh, absolutely. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me at Dominic@DominicFonte.com, and that's spelled DOMINIC @DominicFonte.com.
Okay, and they can ask you any questions
surely
they might want to.
Right, because there's a lot parsing through your mind as you go through the laborious process of thinking about it. It's like anything. You have to think about it, then you have to plan it, then you have to execute it.
Right.
And it's good to have a good guide to be able to hold your hand, walk you through the process.
All right, first step also might be checking out your website or websites, correct?
Yeah, I'd say, what I always recommend, the 2 top search engines in the world right now are Google and YouTube, like how to something.
Sure.
Right? You watch the video. Or you Google, information when you're researching something to see. So, like, if you wanted to Google Dominic Fonte, you can go to Dominic Fonte. There's videos, there's information, there's about 180, 90 reviews. You can see what people think, what their experience has been, and then help you make that decision if it's worth making a time to call. I'm surely not going to waste your time, and I won't bug you. A lot of times I think, when you think of, a salesperson, he's going to bug me. I know it. And it's just, I'm a busy guy, so I wanted, if I can execute or help you solve whatever it is that's on your mind. And it's not always selling your home or buying a home. A lot of times it's just providing information so that you know what to do. Maybe you're thinking about mom. Mom and dad are getting older, getting up in years. Sometimes you just have to, understand what, just in preparation for down the road. It isn't always immediate. So that's the way I look at it. Is it's just, let's get information, and then you can feel more calm and relaxed about these scary things that happen.
I don't think anybody really wants to be thinking about, oh my gosh, I need to sell my house now. What the best thing really is to take your time. Or
exactly.
Otherwise, you could lose out a lot of dollars, right?
No, I think the important thing is get informed, think about it, plan it, and then execute it. And if you do it in that order, and you don't want to do it out of fear, you want to do it out of education, out of knowledge, because I think that's the way you make the best, really honestly, the best non-emotional decision, more of a logical decision.
All right, well, we're going to get into some of the meat of buying and selling, and maybe separate those in different categories, and then of course always why it might be really good to contact Dominic when we come back on News Talk 1480 WHBC. It's 15 minutes after 9. Good morning.
Back to Spotlight with Pam and
Dominic Fonte, Realtor, and is with us here this morning. Hey, let's switch gears to those who are interested in maybe selling their home for a few minutes.
Sure.
I think when you get to maybe you've owned your home for 20, 30 years or whatever, or empty nesters and the kids have leaving the home, and now you've got a 4-bedroom home and there's 2 of you, and you're saying maybe that's a little too big and it's time to downsize. That happens a lot, doesn't it?
It sure does. But one of the interesting things, the longer you're in your home, the harder it is to deal with.
Right.
Because, if you've been there 25 to 40 years, which happens a lot of times, not only are you there with the emotions and the memories and, your energy levels are different, in dealing with all these unknown items, there's also a lot of possessions to deal with.
Right.
Your memories. Sometimes your children come and go and they leave all these items in the basement. And so you're like a storage session, for the family.
Right.
So you try to figure out, okay, how am I going to do this? It's such a big bite. It's almost overwhelming. So sometimes you just throw your hands up and say, the heck with it. So it's a baby stepping process. It's kind of like what they say, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So I think anything, you should have a consultation with someone that knows their business, and they can just break it into like 3 or 4 easy steps, and you would just take your time over the course of a period of maybe 6 months to a year, depending on what your situation is. So if you're downsizing, are you downsizing to a condominium, a smaller ranch home, or everything one floor, which I get a lot. Or am I moving to Florida?
It's like, do I have to do the lawn the rest of my life, or...
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Can I get into a situation where they're taking care of all the property and all I have to do is hang out in it and make a phone call when something goes bad?
I mean, let's face it. If you have a larger ranch, all one floor, and the laundry's in the basement, and you have a tub you have to step in, you can always modify and do stackable washer and dryer on the first floor. Take the tub out, put a shower in, put some bars, grab bars, and pay someone to care for the lawn and the fall and winter or summer spring cleanup. This way here, sometimes it's better just to sit tight than to uproot your life and go through the anxiety and the cost. So that's one of those things I think you need to assess. But like if you had a 2-story home, 2,800 square feet, and you don't really need those 4 bedrooms, yes, it's probably a good idea to consider what your options are. Right. So, of course, again, this is just a 3 or 4 step process. You break it down into bite-sized pieces, and then just, like I said, you're thinking about it, you're getting educated. Then possibly you consider the planning effect. How do we do it? Who's going to help me? And then you just go piece by piece, room by room.
Yeah, interesting. It really is all about educating yourself.
Honestly.
And finding somebody like yourself that we can sit down and ask. And I guess I feel privileged. I'm sitting here. I get to ask them all the questions. But if you have any questions at home, they can email you, right?
Yeah, just email me, Dominic@DominicFonte.com. There's someone watching the emails right now. And so if you have any emails, there's also some common questions that maybe a buyer or seller might be thinking. Hopefully we can address a few of those and maybe even answer the question before you send it off. But feel free anytime. It doesn't cost anything to communicate with me and to figure out just some options.
Right.
That way there you feel better about things.
Well, what do you need to do before you sell your home? Well, you had brought this up actually while we were in commercial break about having an inspection.
Oh, that's a good
Is
one.
it mandatory? Is it not mandatory? Or does a buyer almost always ask for it?
Well, there's 2 schools of thought. So let's say I want to sell my home. I've been in my home 20 or 30 years. If it's not broken, I'm not going to fix it, right? But codes and things have changed over the years. So in the 70s, GFCIs, those outlets that reset, weren't a big deal. Now they're a big deal. So from the old school, thought is like, well, we didn't need them. Why do we need them now? So a lot of times, some sellers are looking at doing what's called a pre-inspection so that they can anticipate what a buyer would potentially run into and go ahead and correct some of those things now. Now, as a buyer, you're spending, thousands of dollars on a piece of real estate, and you're maybe moving your family to it, so you want to customize it, have a safe spot. So it's always wise to spend that $300-400 for a professional home inspection. And I always look at it, it's a purpose to really get to know your house, get to learn about your new home. And sometimes you come up with a honey-do list of things that need to be addressed. But the real purpose of that inspection as a buyer is to make sure if there's any safety issues, maybe an electrical double tap, GFCI is not working, a gas leak, or some kind of an issue. You want to know that going into it, because when you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially, you want to make sure you're protecting yourself and at least getting to know your piece of property. And then if there's some big issues or safety issues, we go ahead and try to address those right up front.
And that was a question I always had, though, when I was getting a home inspection is, well, who's the person who's doing the inspection? Don't I have to vet them like I vet you?
Well, honestly, if you have an expert, someone that's helping you, it's basically the person guiding you through the process. You can always look to them for help. If you don't really understand what lenders to use, what title companies to use,
right,
what affiliates to use to fix things, the agent that you work with usually has a list of 2 or 3 people in each of those categories, which then they can give that list. I have a service provider list that I give to my customers and clients. So
those are the ones that you trust and say
they're the
worked
ones
with.
that, right. And if they screw it up, they come off the list.
Yeah.
So there's no real benefit to me other than they do a good job, so it makes the experience of the buying and selling.
I think the first time
better.
home buyer or seller, though, might not know that. Oh, wait, well, what are you getting out of that? Are you getting a kickback from this guy for all that? And we don't know.
No, it's, I can't speak for everybody, but I'm just saying ethically, you just want to, the whole thing is there's a lot of working parts when you buy or sell real estate. So I think the better the guide is, the guide you through the process, the better it is, the better the experience. And at the end of the process, if you've had an excellent experience, you're going to write a review and refer me to all your friends and family. So that's ultimately, we take the long view approach to it.
Right. And by the way, how are your reviews going? Last time we came here, I couldn't find anybody who had anything bad to say about you.
Well, I'm sure you could probably type in something real quick if you want. But hey, so real quick, you can go to my website or Google Dominic Fonte, and there's reviews on Zillow, Trulia, Google, and Facebook, and Realtor.com.
Your business and industry really relies on those, don't they?
Think about it. Amazon, I think, kicked it off because, when you look at a product you're looking to buy or sell, do you honestly take a look at those reviews? Now, once in a while, you get a 1-star review. You read it with, you kind of look at it.
You can tell, right,
if they're upset or maybe it didn't come as quick as they want. But the point is that when you deal with real estate, it's one of the biggest financial investments you're ever going to make.
Right.
And it's not only just a logical decision, mostly it's based on emotions. So what happens, and I have a strict process how my buyer's agents and I work, and this is, the viewers probably can't see it. I don't know if you can see it on Facebook. But basically, I have a 15-step process, Gary, and I'll show it to you there.
I think we can kind of maybe sort of put that up there like that, and we can.
Can you see that?
You'll make sure that.
So I have 2 versions of it. This is I call it the chutes and ladder version for the millennials. They like that version of it, but then a lot of times, a Gary Rivers would like this version of it.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Like
nice.
the checklist. So I have 2 different versions you can use. Go ahead and you can show that one too.
Yeah. And here's the.
So basically, this is a 15-step process I put together so that, since you don't do this all the time as a potential buyer, it's important to know what the overall picture looks like.
Right.
And that way there, it just calms you a little bit while you look through the process. So this is something that really works well, and it helps put the buyer in the right mindset. Because, again, buying and selling is very emotional. But what happens is when you have an emotional decision, sometimes you second guess your decision,
right?
And then buyer's remorse
you always have that. Did I do it right? Did I sell it too low? Did I buy too high?
And that's what. And so it's very important to kind of get that navigation right, so that when you have that second guess, in your heart you made the right decision, because we walk you through step by step. So that you make sure that when you make that decision, if you have a glimpse of, oh my goodness, what just happened, you know that you're okay and you're safe.
All right, and we're out of time at the moment. We got to take a break in just a few moments. Again, if you want more information, DominicFonte.com is the website to go to. Phone number for them to call?
330-418-1535.
All right, do that one more time. That number.
330-418-1535.
Okay, they can call that, go to the website, and we'll get you some more ways to get in touch with Dominic. When we come back, we've got news. That's next.
There's a lot at stake when selling your home. In fact, thousands of dollars could be in jeopardy. I'm Dominic Fonte, your local Cutler Realtor. To maximize the profits of the sale of your home, you need an expert who knows what buyers are looking for and able to recognize those features that will command top dollar.
There's a lot at stake when selling a home, so choose the realtor trusted by over 1,700 families. Choose Dominic Fonte. Visit DominicFonte.com. Dominic Fonte. Trusted, respected, recommended.
Now back to Spotlight with Pam and Gary.
Welcome back to the second half of Spotlight on News Talk 1480 WHBC, a special Monday morning edition. Dominic Fonte is our guest this morning for the next 30 minutes or so. And you can know that not only are we broadcasting live on WHBC 1480 AM, but also our Facebook page. And you can check us out here. We're in studio on Facebook Live, and all you have to do is go to your Facebook page, WHBC, and you'll see Dominic and myself doing the interview here. So while we were on break, I decided to look up and put Dominic Fonte to the test. I really, it's almost embarrassing. I can't find a negative comment on you anywhere, Dominic. I don't know how many businesses there are that have all 5-star reviews, but you're one of the few, and that's amazing. So, and I know you've got to be proud of that.
I've worked very hard to try to do the best job I can.
I mean, you don't get 5-star. I'm shopping on Amazon all the time. I don't think I've ever found 5-star total across the board reviews. There's always somebody who's critical of, well, it was the best phone I ever bought, but, and then let me tell you what it's missing. Right?
Right. Well, this is a little different because you're dealing...
Is it?
It is.
I don't know if it is.
Well, I mean, the thing is it's like what your expectations are and what the results are. So you have to set realistic expectations. And I'd say probably a lot of agents, as they learn this process, I mean, I've been doing it for a while, so I have it down to almost a science. But when you deal with people's feelings and emotions, that's the anomaly to deal with, because you want to make sure once you communicate with your client, you figure out what their experience level is, because most people buy 3 or 4 homes in their whole career from start to finish, right?
Right.
And so it isn't like, buying a pair of jeans. So it's a scary thing. And so honestly, I work really, really hard. I have a team, and everybody has a job, and we broke it into compartments so that my clients, and again, it's education, because we want to exceed their expectations. And sometimes, when your feelings and things aren't going the way you want, sometimes it's stressful. I work so hard to try to do the best I can. But again, it doesn't work every time. I probably have a 4.9 somewhere, I'm sure. I got to dig through it.
Okay.
But I work really hard to try to make sure, because my reputation in this job, it isn't like you buy and sell every day.
Right.
But people that are going to buy and sell, and if I do you a good job, you're going to spread the word around. That's how I build the reputation over the course of 30 years.
All right, and let me ask you, because I noticed when you were sitting here looking at all of your sheets, you're very organized. I mean, you talk about your systems, but the one thing about your systems that I think is apparent to anybody who's listening or anybody who spends any time with you, it's not just about the statistics and putting everything in order. You put the feelings of the customer in there. It's about that personal interaction, and that's a major difference, because when you're buying or selling a home, it is a major emotional investment, and you don't discount that at all.
No, that's understated. It surely is. And again, if you did it every day, it might be different. Like, I do it every day, but I have to remember, you don't do it every day.
Right.
So I have to be sensitive to what you're struggling with. And again, personality means a lot. So if you have a certain personality type where you just give me the bullet points and the bottom line, that process would be a little bit different. But if you want to know, and you haven't done it in a while, and you want to know every single detail, you want to have it down to a science, then that's a different process, because it's going to take longer. You're going to need more information to make that informed decision. So I have to always assess the customer and keep in mind that this is something usually they don't do a lot. So I have to walk them through the process based on where they are, not where I am.
And we're all in different points in that process as well. So that's why I think you have that system in place, because I look and I go, well, I can ask him this question, but there might not be any there's not a one-size-fits-all
No.
in buying real estate or selling, right?
Not at all. That's where I was saying that you have to ask the client, depending on if it's a buyer, seller, or just someone asking questions, what is their situation? Not my situation. What is their situation? And if they had a magic wand, how would they what do they want to know? What are they thinking? Because I don't know what they're thinking. So they tell me, okay, this is what I'm worried about. This is what I'm concerned about. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I think. And then they want to know my professional opinion. So then I share my professional opinion with them, and then they process that, parse that information, and then they can decide what next question to answer so that they feel comfortable and educated.
All right. Before we go any further, I guess I want to ask about buyers and sellers market right now. What's going on here in Stark County? Because everyone listening within the sound of our voice, for the most part, is probably in Stark County, and it's been crazy. A house gets on the market one day and it's sold the next. Is that still happening?
It's slowed down a little bit because of the seasonality as you move into the fall market. The buyer pool is a little less because people are in school. They're focusing on other things. The market's still very good if the house is in the right location and good condition and fair price. So the buyers are still out there buying. The rates are creeped up a little bit. It's about 4.75. It's currently a seller's market, which means, and I have a graph I can show.
Sure.
I don't know if you can see that.
Well, JD will we'll take that and put it up on Facebook Live, by the way. We have these little cute charts that you've put
It's
together.
to help. The visualization's important, and it just shows if we're in a buyer market, seller market, based on how many months supply of inventory. So that means how many months does it take to clear up the inventory. So this is broad stroke information. If it's 1 to 5 months of inventory, which we happen to be at 2.7 months inventory, then it is a seller's market. Properties are appreciating.
Got it.
So they're going up in value. So it's like a forced savings plan. If you happen to be able to be in a position to buy a piece of real estate, it's a good time. And like when we went through the downturn from, say, July of 2007 to 2013,
right,
we had 10, 11 months supply, which means there were way more properties on the market than the buyer pool, which then the property prices plummeted. Even though the rates were 3%, you couldn't even give away a home at that time. So now it's shifted back to favoring the seller. So it's still a good time to buy. Prices are creeping up, probably 6% average this year, but the average normally is between 2 and 3%.
Okay, so now let me ask you maybe some specific questions. Like, I suppose the first question that we all ask ourselves is, why am I paying this guy? Why can't I just sell my home by myself? And that's a difficult process, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, you got to think of it like this. It's like a brain surgeon. I have to get brain surgery, and like how many surgeries has this doctor had before I test him out? And if you sell your home once or twice in your whole life, you probably have limited experience.
Right.
And I run into it a lot of times where they don't really see the value of the real estate agent because sometimes the agents don't illustrate what it is that they do. If they think you just put a sign in the yard and charge a big fat commission and do nothing and collect all this money, well, of course they're going to be frustrated and they don't see the value in what we do. But I've helped over 1,800 families go through this laborious process. I think there'd be a benefit to you. And you can always go to my website and look at the reviews. There's a guy in particular who netted 15% more money, and he was going to sell it himself, but he did go with an agent prior to me that would reduce his commission because he was focused on that commission, because it's a big chunk of the money when you sell your home, right?
Sure.
Because you need every penny because that's your nest egg to move forward with your future. So what happened was I told him that, I've been doing this a while. I'll give him good guidance, which I did. He did compare me to the other agent, but he said I was, a percent higher. So he was going to go with the other agent because I charged a percent higher. But I said to him, wait a minute. I said, let me explain the difference. The difference is I gave him enough information and gave him the right recommendations that he actually netted, I think it was 15% more money. Actually, I see right here you can't really see. Actually, can you turn the camera around and show the review? So right now, if you're streamed live on Facebook, you'll be able to see the review that I'm talking about. So this particular gentleman had several real estate transactions, so it wasn't like he was inexperienced.
Right.
And he could have easily sold it himself, but he saw the value of me. And at the end of the day, you could see he netted $15,000 more than if he would have sold it himself or with the other agent, because the other agent quoted him less money, which you can see that on the review.
Yeah.
So again, if you have the time and the energy and the know-how, hey, have at it.
Right.
But I can tell you right now
that most people don't have that because they're doing their jobs. They're doing their careers.
Well, in my opinion, I would leave it to the expert. Now, I'm not saying everybody's an expert.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's like anything. The more experience you have, the more knowledge, the better informed you are, the better the experience will be for you. And that's what I try to do for my customers and clients is I try to say, look, how can I make this thing better? What did I miss? Because I'm not perfect. I mean, I make mistakes too, but I want it to be so good and so well-oiled that you would refer me to your friends and family, people you trust, because that's how I built my reputation over the past however many years.
All right, we've got to take a break. We'll be right back. News Talk 1480 WHBC. Again, if you want to get a hold of Dominic, go to his website, DominicFonte.com, and we'll give that number out a couple more times right now. What's your phone number?
330-418-1535. That's 330-418-1535.
All right, we'll be back in just a few on News Talk 1480 WHBC.
There's a lot at stake when selling your home. In fact, thousands of dollars could be in jeopardy. I'm Dominic Fonte, your local Cutler Realtor. To maximize the profits of the sale of your home, you need an expert who knows what buyers are looking for and able to recognize those features that will command top dollar.
There's a lot at stake when selling a home, so choose the realtor trusted by over 1,700 families. Choose Dominic Fonte. Visit DominicFonte.com. Dominic Fonte. Trusted, respected, recommended.
Welcome back to our final segment of Spotlight on this Monday morning. Yes, a special Monday morning edition of Spotlight, and Dominic Fonte's been invited in here, and he's invited us to share his story, the home buying process. I love this chart, and apparently I chose the Gary chart, right?
You got it.
You knew which one I was going to like.
I sure did.
That's funny. But home buying is such a difficult process for the layman, the one who doesn't do it too often. I know for myself, you got to make sure, Gary, you trust that person because I'm going to be calling you. Now, do people call you at all out? You probably don't want that, but they call you almost 24/7. They're like at 9 o'clock at night. It's like, hey, Dominic, I've got another idea. I just saw this house.
Well, I ran into a customer who was at Gervasi yesterday. They had a 720 market, and they had approximately 8,000 people that showed up. It was a fantastic event. But anyhow, I ran into a customer of mine who I sold a house to, a young couple with a couple kids, 5 acres, and she gave me a big hug. And this was like 3 years ago. I didn't even realize how long ago it was. She goes, I just wanted to tell you, because we're at the 720 group selling their wares that they grow, wildflowers. I think it's Bloom Hill, it's called, or something like that. But anyhow, she thanked me, and she goes, you know what? If it wasn't for you, we would have never got this house because you were negotiating at midnight. And I'm like, the rubber meets the road, not when you list a home to sell or if you're working with a buyer and showing them homes. The rubber meets the road when you're in the heat of the negotiations, because that's where you win. So when you have someone representing you, they're in it to win it. Like if you want that house or you're trying to negotiate the best price for that house, you have to hit it hard. That's where the rubber meets the road. Yeah. So it doesn't stop at 5 o'clock. It might be 11 o'clock. In fact, most of the time it's not. I would imagine you do a lot of evenings. Well, I do whatever it takes to get the job done. And I think that's all that needs to be said. If anybody has questions, though, that I don't ask, because I know I'm not going to ask 99% of the questions folks have out there. There's just so many that they need to ask. They need to send you email, I think. If you email me, my staff will catch that email and we'll respond to you as quick as we can. And again, you can go to Dominic at DominicFonte.com, spelled DOMINIC at DOMINIC. F as in Frank, ONTE.com. So Dominic at DominicFonte.com. Feel free to send me any questions. If you're looking for some of these informative fall books I have, things to consider when you do want to sell your home or possibly buy a home, or if you're a younger buyer and this is your first time, there's a lot of scary things to think about. And even if you're not comfortable talking to a person like me, I got information. I'm not going to bug you. I can get you the information. You can look at it and, check me out online. If you feel comfortable, reach out to me. And again, I'm here to help. I'm trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, clean, and reverent. I want to get it done for you. So if you need some help, I can help you.
All right, boy, it sounds like you just quoted the Boy Scout
laws,
right?
It is the Boy Scout laws.
How about that? Well, yeah, you were just telling us you were an Eagle Scout. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I got my Eagle in the 70s.
How about that? Well, with that in mind, let me ask you about the buying process or the selling process, because when you represent the seller, you really go to work for them too. What is that process involved from your perspective?
I mean, the first thing is that, like a lot of times, a seller would say, I've been reading in the paper, I've been looking online, I should get 3 or 4 opinions, so that they can size up those opinions. Mm-hmm. And then depending on the fit, how they feel about the agent and the information and marketing, and there's a lot of little details, but typically what happens for me is I would get the call. Maybe they'd say, I saw your sign. I was wondering if you could come out and take a look. We're not sure what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. So I go out and meet them, find out what their situation is, and then we take a look. A lot of times they just want to know what preparational things that they should be doing.
Right.
They have ideas of what they want to do, but they want to verify with me, should I do it or not do it? Or what's important. So like, for example, if you're getting ready to sell your home, you should probably call me, even if it's in a year or two, you should call me ahead of time. Because sometimes what will happen is you'll paint the house and you'll get it prepped based on your favorite color, blue or mauve. And then when we go to put the house on the market, if the market's a younger buyer, they may not like blue or mauve, mm-hmm. even though you just painted it. So we want to make sure that the moves that you make are very cost effective. We don't want to do more than we need to. We just want to do what we need to do to attract the rosy-colored glasses of that prospective buyer who would be the buyer for the house.
Got it.
So that would be step 1. Step 2 would be I go back to the office after I size up the home, look at what we're thinking of doing, and then I go ahead and put a market analysis together based on what the current market's doing at that given time of the year. Then I send them a very nice report. Then I meet back with them, and we decide what, to let them know the net. So if they were to sell it and pay their cost of their mortgage and their expenses and commissions and all that kind of thing, what does the number look like?
Yeah, what does it mean?
What does it mean to them, bottom line? And then they have enough information. They say, okay, let me think on it, or we want to do it, or we don't want to do it, or we're now more educated and we'll do it sometime down the road. So then they'll just keep me in the back of their mind if they have any other questions, and we deal with it as they call me. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's basically how we do it.
It's a pretty simple process, but you have to get started by contacting you initially.
Exactly. And it's like anything, it's a baby process. You mm-hmm. just step through it step by step.
All right, and then the same thing on the buying side. You really recommend getting approved first, right? I mean, is that one of the biggest steps?
If you look at my chart there, it's the buyer consultation mm-hmm. first. So because like, honestly, it's not just the money, it's emotional too. Mm-hmm. And I always put that in there because it's real estate is an emotional decision, buying or selling. So it's not only financial. So you got to be dialed into both of those components to make sure. So that would be the consultation to see kind of what you're thinking, what your time frames are. Then I would guide you through step by step, like the overview picture, and then mm-hmm. what to do next. Because sometimes, people say, well, I want to go to the credit union. I have my money at the credit union, or I have my savings at the credit union. So I would say you can go wherever you want. You just want to make sure when they get the home loan, you talk to that lender. If they want an FHA loan or a VA loan or a conventional loan, you want to make sure that they've done lots of loans. Like I said, back to the brain surgeon. Mm-hmm. If they've made 2 home loans in the last 6 months, probably not a good place to go.
Why is that? Just because they're not as experienced and they might not know where to...
It's a laborious process. So if you think about it, when you get a home loan, and let's say you go to a local bank, mm-hmm. they don't give you the money out of the safe. They sell it to Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, or Ginnie Mae, the secondary market. So there's a strict set of rules because Frank Dodd put a bunch of regulations in after the debacle. So it's not as simple as like if you have a savings account or a checking account or a credit card at your local bank and they smile and they give you a sucker. It's not like that. Mm-hmm. It goes to the secondary market. So you want to make sure that the order taker or that originator person you talk to is like a super savvy person, like that brain surgeon.
Got it.
And like that realtor. And like the home inspector and those affiliates
they could
work with.
They can put roadblocks up without even knowing it, is what you're saying.
It is such a stressful experience that is what makes my my job more difficult because I only control part of the experience. But in order to get from A to Z, you have to work with 5 or 6 different affiliates. And so I want everybody affiliated with me and my team to be 110%. And if they're not 110%, they're not on my list, because I want your experience so good and so well oiled, because we're dealing with the finances, which is, critical, and also the emotional component of it. And this is how you're going to have a very good experience, because it's well oiled.
All right. Well, we're talking with Dominic Fonte, Dominic Fonte Realtor. If you have any questions, as we're just about out of time, we got just a minute or so left. Let's get the phone number out. Let's get you to the website. You have that other website too. What's My Home Worth? What is that?
That's right. So this is a great one.
I love that one.
Yeah. So this would be one I get questions asked many times. Dom, what's my house worth? So I came up with a URL. So if you go to whatsmyhouseworth.com and type in your address, it'll send you a nice report within a minute or two.
That's awesome.
It is.
So you've got that, but if you want direct questions, what's the phone number to call?
Call me directly at 330-418-1535. Someone will be standing by to receive your call at 330-418-1535.
And, of course, go to his website, DominicFonte.com, and get all your questions answered. And, again, if you want any of the literature, give you a call, right?
I have 3 books for you. They're 30 pages each. They're excellent books. Feel free to contact me if you're interested at Dominic@DominicFonte.com.
Right,
Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, thank you so much for being here this morning. It's always informative.
My pleasure.
I wish I had more time to ask 1,000 questions, but I'll leave that up to you at home. You can ask the 1,000 questions to him directly. You don't need to go through me.
That hour went by fast.
It did. All right, have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
There's a lot at stake when selling your home. In fact, thousands of dollars could be in jeopardy. I'm Dominic Fonte, your local Cutler Realtor. To maximize the profits of the sale of your home, you need an expert who knows what buyers are looking for and able to recognize those features that will command top dollar.
There's a lot at stake when selling a home, so choose the realtor trusted by over 1,700 families. Choose Dominic Fonte. Visit DominicFonte.com. Dominic Fonte. Trusted, respected, recommended.
Your hometown station.
Oh, you're wonderful. I listen to you religiously.
News Talk 1480.
I love you.
WHBC.